have a film at the Fort Lauderdale International Film Festival, and it's called "And the Great Showers of Tears Came Down." It's a short, about 28 minutes, and it's about a Marine who went to Vietnam as a hawk and came back as a dove carrying an olive branch. So he really is, in a sense, an anti-war activist.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the characters?
Man, just one character really. Uh, he's he experienced so many horrific situations in the war. At one time, his entire company was wiped out, and then he was part of an operation that the company that he was assigned to, that was also wiped out. So it's a lot of blood and a lot of bloodshed, a lot of even hand-to-hand fighting. It, 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 he was in that area where the North Vietnamese army was operating with impunity, and the Marines went up there to check them, and they didn't have the kind of firepower that they expected to clean out the pockets of the North Vietnamese until afterward. Based on those experiences, his best friend died, and he couldn't take it anymore. The way he died and how his body was treated is sort of the reason for the title "And Great Showers of Tears Came Down," because that was it for the rest of his tour. He was just suffused with emotion and guilt because it was his best friend. He preferred that he would have gone instead of his best friend, and they were like twins because they resembled each other. Even though he was from Florida and his best friend was from Birmingham, Alabama, they called them the twins. They look alike, and they shared everything. And so it was like his twin brother in real. And if you had a twin brother in war who died alongside you, you certainly gonna feel it stronger and harder than if it was an ordinary buddy who fell at your side. So that's what the film is about. How he took it.
How you, what do you hope people take away from it with this film?
That mankind, people like us as a nation, people in Congress, the president even, would think twice about sending troops in harm's way. There should be a lot of dialogue, much dialogue before we take it to the end, because it's worth the extra time. It's kind of like what President Obama did in Syria with the red line, and he refused to cross it, and no troops went to Syria. And now he's faced with another group that's even stronger or worse than the forces in Syria. And now he's taking these little steps to get the people of Iraq and Syria to fight their own battles. Because war is not war is not what it's cracked up to be. It's not that kind of like theatrical, gung-ho, heroic exercise. There's a lot of emotion going into war. And when you come back, there's a lot less emotion because you have that numbness and you have a desire to be isolated. There's a lot of things, and depression, and you end up at the VA hospital being treated for PTSD, for example. So what he went through, and all these of his friends died, he couldn't see why the country had gone to war in a foreign land, and they had done nothing to the United States. Now, Afghanistan was different when they bombed the World Trade Center. And, and nobody in his or her right mind would say, well, we shouldn't send anyone to kill the bin Laden and his associates. So that's okay by him. But Vietnam wasn't that kind of war. We were fighting a war that was meaningless. And when we came back, there were a lot of peace protests. And we could understand, in a sense, if you went through what he did, what he went through, when he came back, he could understand why people were protesting against the war. And there are some people who say, well, they spat on me, they're not patriotic and all that. But everybody had a different experience. And this picture, this movie, is about the experience of someone who went the extra mile and beyond, only to come back being hurt by the country.
So, just tell me about your personal experience
Yeah, okay.
with war.
I served as a combat control, where my mission was to control air traffic on the battlefield. We were going to an operation with about 300 helicopters. Each helicopter would hold about 12 or max 15 troops. And so when you have like 200 helicopters coming into the battlefield, you need someone to control all that air traffic on the landing zone. And when you need a medevac to come in to take out the wounded, you need someone to control the traffic coming in. And you have artillery and mortars coming in. They want to shoot down the choppers. You got to let the pilot know all this stuff. So that was my mission, and I also volunteered as a door gunner and suicide missions, which is flying low over the treetops, trying to draw fire so that the gunships come in and clean out the enemy. And when I came back, I didn't realize what was going on with me. I couldn't go back to school. I couldn't go to school. I tried going back to school. I spent a month, and the professor says that you're not ready for it yet. I tried working. I couldn't do that, and it took me a long time to recover. And actually, I'm still recovering, because since I've been back 40 years later, I'm still in therapy. I'm in group therapy. And every job that I took, I would lose it within a year. And I became a writer for the Miami Herald and an editor. And even that serious job, I couldn't hold for longer than 4 years. So war is really hell, but when you come back from war, it's even worse than that. So that's my experience, and it's not that I am averse to troops going to war. I just want people to know that when you come back, it's not the same as when you were left. You come back a different person. That's the message I want to take. And parents and mothers and fathers ought to know that their son would not come back the same person he or their daughter, he or she left the United States.